The unexpected arrival. The three suns of Zeta Reticuli cast an otherworldly glow over the crystalline spires of the Galactic University of Xenobiology. The campus buzzed with activity as beings from across the known universe scurried, floated, or oozed their way to classes. Among them, Professor Zilks, a gaseous entity from the methane swamps of Epsilon Eridani, wafted anxiously outside the main lecture hall. "Have you heard the news, Bloop?" Zilks's voice was a melodious whisper, barely audible over the cacophony of alien languages filling the air. Professor Bloop, a gelatinous mass of translucent purple goo, rippled in response. His three eyes, floating somewhere in the center of his amorphous body, blinked rapidly in sequence. "About the new professor?" "Yes, it's all anyone's been talking about for cycles now." "A human," Zilks hissed, his gaseous form shimmering with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Can you believe it? A real, live Deathworlder, here at our university." Bloop's body quivered, tiny air bubbles forming and popping in quick succession, his species equivalent of a shudder. "I've heard stories about their planet. Tectonic shifts, extreme weather patterns, and the life forms. Apex predators everywhere, even microscopic killers in their air and water. How does anything survive there, let alone evolve sentience?" Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden hush falling over the crowded hallway. The doors at the far end slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a figure that seemed to dominate the space despite its relatively small size. Dr. Jack Harper strode into the hall, his steps purposeful and confident. He stood just under 2 meters tall, his pale skin contrasting sharply with the deep blue of his formal attire. His short, dark hair was neatly combed, and his hazel eyes scanned the room with keen interest. The alien faculty and students parted before him like a colorful sea, a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity evident in their varied physiologies. Some retracted sensory organs, while others extended them, eager to gather more data on this fascinating new life form. Jack smiled, revealing a row of omnivorous teeth that caused several nearby aliens to flinch. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice carrying easily through the hall. "I'm Dr. Jack Harper, your new professor of comparative terrestrial ecosystems. I'm looking forward to working with all of you." Zilks and Bloop exchanged glances, or what passed for glances in their unique anatomies. The human's voice was surprisingly melodious, not at all the guttural growl they had expected from a species evolved on a high-gravity death world. Professor Harper, a multi-limbed, insectoid being, clicked, mandibles quivering. "We're honored to have you join our faculty. I am Dean Sixtlick. Might I inquire, is it true that humans can endure physical conditions that would be lethal to most known species?" Jack's smile widened, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "Well, Dean Sixtlick, we are indeed quite resilient. As for enduring extreme conditions, let's just say we've turned it into a pastime back on Earth." A collective gasp rippled through the assembled aliens. Bloop's gelatinous form rippled so violently he nearly lost cohesion. A pastime," he burbled incredulously. "Oh yes," Jack nodded, seemingly oblivious to the shock he was causing. "We call them extreme sports. Climbing towering mountains, diving into deep oceans, even leaping from great heights with nothing but a piece of fabric to slow our fall. It's quite invigorating." Zilks's gaseous form paled to a near-translucent state. You willingly subject yourselves to such perilous activities." "For recreation," Jack chuckled, a sound that sent a shiver through several of the more sensitive alien physiologies. "Among other things. But don't worry, I'm not here to demonstrate any of that. I'm here to teach and learn. Your species are just as fascinating to me as I seem to be to you." As Jack moved through the crowd towards his new office, the alien professors and students watched in a mixture of terror and awe. Whispers, clicks, and pheromone signals flew back and forth, all conveying variations on the same theme. What kind of beings were these humans, who treated deadly environments as playgrounds? Bloop oozed closer to Zilks, his three eyes wide. Did you see how he moved? So fast, so solid. And those appendages, bipedal locomotion, with manipulator limbs free for tool use. Evolutionary marvels, aren't they? Zilx's gaseous tendrils curled thoughtfully. Indeed. But what fascinates me is their cognitive abilities, to not only survive but thrive in such a hostile environment, to reach the stars. It speaks of remarkable problem-solving skills and adaptability. As the crowd began to disperse, Dean Sixtlick's voice cut through the chatter. Professors, students, let us extend our warmest welcome to Dr. Harper. His unique perspective will undoubtedly enrich our understanding of life in the galaxy. And let us remember, diversity is the cornerstone of our institution. We have much to learn from each other. The dean's words seemed to break the spell of shock and awe. Gradually, curious aliens began to approach Jack, peppering him with questions about Earth, human biology, and culture. The initial fear was slowly giving way to genuine scientific curiosity. Zilx and Blip hung back, observing the interaction with keen interest. You know, Zilx mused, his voice a thoughtful whisper, I think this might be the beginning of a fascinating new chapter for our university. Bloop's gelatinous form rippled in agreement. Indeed, but I can't help wondering, if this is how they've evolved to handle their death world, what other surprises might these humans have in store for us? As if in answer to Bloop's question, Jack's voice rang out clear and excited. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I've brought a little surprise from Earth for my first lecture. I think you'll all find it quite illuminating. The alien professors exchanged worried glances. What kind of surprise could a Deathworlder possibly bring that they would find illuminating? As Jack disappeared into his new office, a buzz of excitement and apprehension filled the air. The Galactic University of Xenobiology was about to embark on an educational journey unlike any it had experienced before. The controversial lecture preparation. The days following Dr. Jack Harper's arrival at the Galactic University of Xenobiology were filled with a palpable mix of excitement and apprehension. Rumors about the human professor's upcoming lecture spread through the campus like wildfire, each retelling more outlandish than the last. Professor Zilx drifted through the crystalline corridors, his gaseous form shimmering with anxiety. He found Professor Bloop in the faculty lounge, his gelatinous body spread thin over a specially designed chair. Bloop, have you heard the latest? Zilx's voice was a barely audible whisper. They say Harper is bringing a live Earth creature to his lecture. Bloop's three eyes widened, causing ripples across his amorphous form. Surely not. The biocontainment protocols alone would be a nightmare. And the risk? Oh, the risk. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Harper himself. The human strode into the lounge, a steaming mug of dark liquid in his hand. The alien professors couldn't help but stare as he took a sip, marveling at his ability to casually ingest a substance hot enough to vaporize some of their colleagues. Good morning, professors. Jack greeted them cheerfully, excited about the upcoming lecture. Zilx and Bloop exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Harper, Bloop began hesitantly, we've heard some concerning rumors about your plans. Jack's eyebrow raised slightly. Oh, and what might those be? Zilx's gaseous tendrils curled anxiously. Is it true you're bringing a live Earth animal to the lecture? Surely that can't be safe. To their surprise, Jack laughed. Ah, I see word travels fast. Yes, I am bringing a special guest. But I assure you, everything has been cleared with the university administration and adheres to all safety protocols. Before either alien professor could respond, Dean Sixtlick entered the lounge, his insectoid form clicking authoritatively. Dr. Harper, a word, if you please. As Jack followed the dean out, Zilx and Blup were left to ponder the implications of this development. Meanwhile, in a secure area of the university, Jack was putting the finishing touches on his preparations. In a specially designed habitat, a creature unlike anything the alien faculty had ever seen waited patiently. Its fur was a rich golden color, its eyes intelligent and alert. Jack approached the enclosure, speaking softly. "Hey there, buddy. Ready for your big debut?" The creature's tail wagged in response, a gesture that would have seemed threatening to most alien species, but to Jack, it was a sign of affection. As the day of the lecture approached, tension on campus reached a fever pitch. Students from every corner of the galaxy clamored for seats in the auditorium. Security measures were heightened, and medical staff were put on high alert. On the morning of the lecture, Jack stood before the habitat, his expression serious. "All right, it's showtime. Let's show them what Earth's all about, shall we?" In the packed auditorium, Zilks and Blup huddled together near the back, as far from the stage as possible. Dean Sixtlick took the podium, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Esteemed colleagues and students," the dean began, "today we have a unique opportunity to learn about one of the most fascinating, and yes, terrifying planets in the known universe. Earth, the death world that somehow produced a spacefaring species. Please welcome Professor Jack Harper." As Jack took the stage, a hush fell over the audience. He smiled, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the room. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "Today, we're going to explore the incredible diversity of life on Earth and the remarkable adaptations that allow species to thrive in what you might consider extreme conditions." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the auditorium. "But rather than just tell you about it, I thought it would be more effective to show you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest." Jack turned towards the side of the stage, where a large covered enclosure stood. With a flourish, he pulled away the cover, revealing the golden-furred creature inside. A collective gasp echoed through the auditorium, followed by a wave of panicked murmuring. Some students near the front recoiled in terror, while others leaned forward in fascination. "This," Jack announced proudly, "is Buddy. He's a domestic dog, specifically a golden retriever, and he's going to help us understand a lot about life on Earth and about humanity itself." As Buddy wagged his tail and let out a friendly woof, chaos erupted in the auditorium. Zilks's gaseous form paled to near invisibility, while Bloop's gelatinous body quivered so violently he was in danger of losing cohesion entirely. Jack, however, remained calm. With a reassuring smile, he opened the enclosure and let Buddy out onto the stage. The dog sat obediently at his side, tongue lolling out in a pant that revealed rows of sharp teeth. "Now," Jack said, his voice cutting through the panic, "who wants to learn about one of humanity's oldest and most beloved companions?" The alien faculty and students stared in disbelief. The lecture that would change their understanding of Earth and its inhabitants had only just begun, and already it was promising to be unlike anything they had ever experienced before. The shocking revelation. The auditorium of the Galactic University of Xenobiology was in a state of controlled chaos. Alien students and faculty members were frozen in a mixture of terror and fascination as they watched Dr. Jack Harper stand calmly next to a creature that, to their eyes, looked like an apex predator from their worst nightmares. "Now, I understand that Buddy here might seem a bit intimidating," Jack began, his voice steady and reassuring. "But I assure you, he's perfectly safe. In fact, on Earth, dogs like Buddy are considered man's best friend." A tentative appendage raised from the middle of the audience. It belonged to a bioluminescent, jellyfish-like being whose glow had dimmed considerably since Buddy's appearance. "Professor Harper," it pulsed nervously, "are you saying that humans willingly cohabitate with carnivorous predators?" Jack's face lit up with a smile. "Excellent question. Yes, we do. In fact, dogs have been living alongside humans for tens of thousands of years. They've evolved alongside us, changing from wild wolves into the diverse breeds we have today." He gestured to Buddy, who sat obediently at his side, tongue lolling out in a friendly pant. "Buddy here is a golden retriever, a breed specifically developed to work alongside humans. His ancestors helped us hunt, herd other animals, and even rescue people in dangerous situations. A ripple of astonishment passed through the audience. The idea of co-evolving with a predator species seemed to challenge everything they thought they knew about survival and evolution. Zilks, his gaseous form still pale with shock, whispered to Bloop, "Did he say hunt?" They used these creatures to hunt, as if their own predatory abilities weren't terrifying enough. Bloop's gelatinous body quivered in agreement, his three eyes wide with disbelief. Jack continued his lecture, seemingly oblivious to the stir he was causing. "Now let me demonstrate some of the ways we interact with dogs on Earth." To the horror of the audience, Jack then proceeded to lower his face close to Buddy's, allowing the dog to lick his cheek. Several alien students near the front fainted at the sight. "This is how dogs often show affection," Jack explained, chuckling at Buddy's enthusiasm. "Their saliva actually has some antibacterial properties. In a way, they're helping to keep us clean." Dean Sixlick's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. "Dr. Harper," he interrupted, "perhaps we should move on to less physical demonstrations." Jack nodded, understanding the dean's concern. "Of course. Let's talk about the incredible sensory abilities of dogs. Buddy here has a sense of smell that's roughly 10,000 to 100,000 times more acute than a human's. This makes dogs invaluable in many fields, from search and rescue to medical detection." As Jack went on to explain how dogs could be trained to detect everything from drugs to certain types of cancer, the initial fear in the auditorium began to give way to curiosity. Students started to lean forward, their various sensory organs focused intently on the human and his furry companion. "But perhaps the most remarkable thing about dogs," Jack continued, his voice softening, "is their emotional intelligence and their capacity for empathy. Dogs have an uncanny ability to understand human emotions and provide comfort when we're distressed." To demonstrate, Jack pretended to be sad, hunching his shoulders and letting out a sigh. Immediately, Buddy moved closer, resting his head on Jack's lap and looking up at him with soulful eyes. The sight elicited a collective awe from the audience, a sound that transcended species barriers. "This emotional bond," Jack explained, scratching Buddy behind the ears, "is why dogs are often used in therapy roles, helping people with mental health issues or providing comfort in hospitals and nursing homes." As the lecture progressed, the alien audience found themselves captivated not just by Buddy, but by the relationship between the dog and the human. The idea that a supposedly apex predator species like humans could form such a deep, symbiotic bond with another predator challenged their understanding of interspecies relationships. Towards the end of the lecture, Jack opened the floor for questions. Tentative at first, but with growing enthusiasm, the alien students and faculty began to ask about every aspect of dog biology, behavior, and the human-dog relationship. "Professor Harper," one student asked, their voice a series of melodic trills, "given the predatory nature of both humans and dogs, how do you ensure the safety of other, smaller pets in your dwellings?" Jack smiled. "Another excellent question. While it's true that both humans and dogs have predatory instincts, domestication, and proper socialization ensure that dogs can peacefully coexist with other animals. In fact, many Earth households have dogs living harmoniously with cats, birds, and even smaller animals like hamsters or rabbits." This revelation caused another stir in the audience. The idea of predator and prey coexisting peacefully seemed to challenge everything they thought they knew about natural order. As the lecture drew to a close, Jack made a final statement that would resonate with his alien audience long after they left the auditorium. "What I hope you take away from today's lecture is this: life, in all its forms, is incredibly adaptable. The story of dogs and humans is one of mutual evolution, cooperation, and love. It shows that even in the harshest environments, yes, even on a death world like Earth, life finds a way not just to survive, but to form connections that transcend biological imperatives. And if we can do that on Earth, imagine the possibilities for cooperation and understanding across our vast galaxy." As Jack and Buddy left the stage to thunderous applause, or the various species equivalents thereof. Zilks turned to Bloop, his gaseous form shimmering with excitement. "You know," Zilks mused, "I think we may have underestimated these humans. They're not just survivors of a death world. They're alchemists, turning predators into protectors, fear into friendship." Bloop's gelatinous form rippled in agreement. "Indeed, and if this is what they can do with the life on their own world, imagine what they might achieve out here among the stars." As the auditorium slowly emptied, the air was filled with excited chatter in 1,000 alien languages. The Galactic University of Xenobiology had just experienced a paradigm shift, and the ripples of this revelation would soon spread far beyond the campus boundaries. The age of human integration into galactic society had truly begun, and it had started with a simple lecture and a wagging tail. Crisis and cooperation. The days following Dr. Jack Harper's groundbreaking lecture were filled with a buzz of excitement and curiosity. The alien students and faculty of the Galactic University of Xenobiology found themselves reevaluating their perceptions of humans and their home planet, Earth. Buddy, the golden retriever, had become something of a campus celebrity, with students from all corners of the galaxy vying for a chance to observe or even interact with the friendly canine. Professor Zilks and Professor Bloop had taken it upon themselves to organize a series of follow-up seminars, eager to explore the implications of human-animal relationships on evolutionary theory and interspecies cooperation. The campus was alive with a new energy, a sense of possibilities previously unimagined. It was on one such busy day, as Jack was preparing for an afternoon demonstration on canine agility, that disaster struck. A piercing alarm echoed through the crystalline halls of the university, its urgent wail transcending language barriers. Dean Sixlick's voice followed, broadcasting across the campus-wide communication system. "Attention all faculty and students. This is not a drill. We have detected a critical failure in our atmospheric regulation systems. Toxic gases from the planet's lower atmosphere are seeping into the university's air supply. Please proceed calmly to your designated safety areas." Panic erupted across the campus. Students of various species began rushing towards the exits, some flying, others slithering, and still others oozing their way through the corridors. The air began to take on a greenish tinge, and several of the more sensitive species were already showing signs of distress. In the midst of the chaos, Jack's voice cut through the cacophony. "Everyone, please calm down. Panicking will only make things worse. We need to organize and help those who are most vulnerable." To the astonishment of the aliens around him, Jack seemed relatively unaffected by the changing atmosphere. He quickly assessed the situation, his eyes scanning the crowded hallway. "Zilks," he called out, spotting the gaseous professor. "Can you help gather the airborne species? Get them to the higher levels where the air is still clean." Zilks, momentarily stunned by the human's composure, quickly recovered. "Ah, yes, of course," he replied, his form shimmering with determination as he began to corral the flying and floating students. "Bloop," Jack continued, turning to the gelatinous professor, "your species is resistant to these toxins, right? Can you help move the silicon-based life forms? They're the most at risk." Bloop's body rippled in affirmation, and he began to extend pseudopods to gently guide the crystalline beings towards safety. As the professors sprang into action, Jack turned his attention to Buddy. The dog was alert, his ears perked up and nose twitching. Suddenly, Jack had an idea. "Dean Sixlick," he called out, "where exactly is the breach in the atmospheric system?" The insectoid Dean's mandibles clicked rapidly. "It's in the lower levels, near the main filtration unit, but it's too dangerous to send anyone down there now." Jack's eyes lit up with determination. Maybe not anyone, but something. "Buddy, come." To the amazement of the surrounding aliens, Jack knelt down next to the dog, speaking quietly but intensely. He then pulled out a small piece of cloth from his pocket, a maintenance worker's uniform he had acquired during his campus orientation. "All right, boy," Jack said, holding the cloth to Buddy's nose. "Find it." With a bark of understanding, Buddy took off down the hallway, his nose to the ground. Jack followed closely behind, leaving a wake of astonished aliens in their path. As they descended into the lower levels, the air grew thicker with toxic fumes. Jack pulled out a small breather mask, standard emergency equipment for humans in alien environments, and placed it over his face. Buddy, thanks to his incredible olfactory abilities and the respiratory systems evolved for Earth's varied environments, pressed on. They reached the filtration room, where Buddy began pawing at a specific panel. Jack quickly understood and pried open the panel, revealing a complex array of alien technology. Despite the unfamiliar design, Jack's quick mind and the universal principles of engineering allowed him to identify the problem: a ruptured containment field. Working swiftly, Jack used materials at hand to jury-rig a temporary seal. As he worked, Buddy stood guard, his keen senses alert for any additional dangers. With a final twist and a prayer to whatever cosmic forces might be listening, Jack activated the repaired system. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the sickly green tinge began to fade from the air. Back in the upper levels, the aliens watched in awe as their atmospheric readings began to normalize. Cheers erupted across the campus as the crisis was averted. When Jack and Buddy finally emerged from the lower levels, they were greeted as heroes. Dean Sixtlick approached, his compound eyes shimmering with what might have been tears if his species were capable of producing them. "Dr. Harper," the dean clicked, his voice filled with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you. You and your remarkable companion have saved countless lives today." Jack, looking somewhat disheveled but grinning broadly, shrugged. "It was a team effort, Dean. I couldn't have done it without Buddy's nose, or without Professor Zilks and Bloop organizing the evacuation." As the adrenaline of the crisis began to fade, the implications of what had just occurred started to sink in. The aliens had just witnessed firsthand the incredible problem-solving abilities, adaptability, and courage that had allowed humans to survive and thrive on their death world. More than that, they had seen the true power of the human-dog partnership. It wasn't just a quirk of Earth's evolution or a charming interspecies friendship. It was a formidable combination of complementary skills and intelligence, capable of overcoming challenges that neither species could have faced alone. As the campus began to return to normal, a new sense of respect and understanding permeated the air, more profound than any academic lecture could have achieved. The Galactic University of Xenobiology had just had a practical lesson in human ingenuity and interspecies cooperation, one that would not soon be forgotten. A new understanding. In the weeks following the atmospheric crisis at the Galactic University of Xenobiology, a profound shift occurred in the way the alien faculty and students perceived their human colleague and his canine companion. The heroic actions of Dr. Jack Harper and Buddy had not only saved lives, but had also demonstrated in the most practical terms the unique adaptability and problem-solving skills of Earth's species. The university buzzed with excitement as news of the incident spread across the galaxy. Overnight, the campus became a hotspot for xenobiologists, evolutionary theorists, and cultural anthropologists from every corner of known space. All were eager to learn more about the species from the death world that had proven to be not just survivors, but innovators. On a particularly bright morning, with all three of Zeta Reticuli's suns shining, Dean Sixtlick called a special assembly in the grand auditorium. As the diverse array of alien life forms settled into their seats, or hovering positions, or gelatinous puddles, there was an air of anticipation. The dean's mandibles clicked rhythmically as he addressed the gathered crowd. "Esteemed colleagues and students, the recent events have prompted us to reevaluate our curriculum and our understanding of interspecies relationships. Today, we are proud to announce the establishment of a new department, Terrestrial Adaptive Systems and Interspecies Cooperation." A murmur of excitement rippled through the audience. Dean Sixtlick continued, "And who better to lead this groundbreaking initiative than the individual who has opened our eyes to these new possibilities? Dr. Jack Harper, would you please join me on stage?" As Jack made his way to the podium, accompanied as always by the faithful Buddy, the audience erupted in a cacophony of cheers, clicks, whistles, and bioluminescent flashes. The human and his dog had become symbols of a new era of galactic cooperation and understanding. Jack smiled as he addressed the crowd. Thank you all. The events of the past few weeks have shown us that there's so much more to learn about the diversity of life in our galaxy. But more importantly, they've shown us the power of cooperation, not just between different alien species, but between different species from the same planet. He reached down to scratch Buddy behind the ears, eliciting the happy tail wag. Humanity's relationship with dogs is just one example of how species can evolve together, enhancing each other's strengths and compensating for each other's weaknesses. Imagine what we could achieve if we applied this principle on a galactic scale. In the front row, Professors Zilks and Bloop listened intently, their initial fear of the human and his beast now replaced with profound respect and curiosity. Moving forward, Jack continued, our department will focus on understanding and applying the adaptive strategies that have allowed life to flourish on Earth and other extreme environments. We'll explore not just the biological aspects, but also the social and emotional connections that can form between different species. The speech was met with enthusiastic approval. As the assembly concluded, students and faculty alike crowded around Jack and Buddy, eager to ask questions and even tentatively offer to pet the friendly canine. Later that evening, as the suns began to set, Jack found himself in the faculty lounge with Zilks and Bloop. The three professors, once separated by fear and misunderstanding, now sat, or floated, together as colleagues and friends. You know, Zilks's gaseous form shimmered thoughtfully. When you first arrived, we thought you were bringing danger to our campus. We couldn't have imagined that you and Buddy would end up teaching us so much about cooperation and adaptability. Bloop's gelatinous body rippled in agreement. Indeed, your presence has challenged our preconceptions about life on Deathworlds. Perhaps it's not the harshness of the environment that defines a species, but how they adapt and form relationships within that environment. Jack smiled, absently petting Buddy, who lay contentedly at his feet. That's an insightful observation, Bloop. On Earth, we have a saying, adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. Maybe the same is true for entire species and planets. As they continued their discussion late into the night, ideas flowed as freely as the bioluminescent beverages they shared. They talked about future research projects, exchange programs with Earth universities, and the potential for cross-species therapy animals in xenopsychology. Outside the lounge's window, the crystalline spires of the university glittered under the alien stars. Somewhere out there, countless worlds spun through the cosmic dance, each harboring its own unique forms of life, waiting to be understood. The arrival of humanity and their faithful companions to the galactic stage had opened up new avenues of research and cooperation. It challenged the very notion of what it meant to be an advanced civilization. Perhaps true advancement wasn't just about technology or individual survival skills, but about the ability to form meaningful bonds, even with species one might initially fear. As the professors said their goodnights, each heading to their specially adapted quarters, there was a shared sense of excitement for the future. The Galactic University of Xenobiology had always prided itself on being at the forefront of interspecies understanding. Now, with the introduction of Earth's unique perspective, they were poised to take that understanding to new heights. Jack and Buddy made their way back to their quarters, the human steps matched by the rhythmic patting of canine paws. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to bridge the gaps between the myriad life forms of the universe. But for now, as man and dog settled in for the night under an alien sky, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. The end of this chapter marked the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation, with humanity and their loyal companions playing a pivotal role. The story of the Galactic University of Xenobiology and its unlikely Earth heroes would be told and retold across the cosmos, inspiring generations of beings to look beyond their differences and find strength in diversity. In the vast expanse of space, life had once again proven its remarkable ability to adapt, connect, and thrive.